This was the photo that figure skater Spencer Lane snapped as he waited to take off from Wichita, Kansas, on American Airlines Flight 5342. Lane posted the photo on Instagram just before takeoff, with a simple caption, ICT to DCA. Spencer Lane was flying with his mother, Christine. They'd just attended the U.S. Figure Skating Championships and National Development Camp in Wichita. The Lanes had reportedly adopted Spencer and his brother from South Korea. Spencer had left high school to pursue a career in figure skating. In December last year, he skated in a show organized by this woman.
He was just beaming. This kid was so talented. He'd only started skating a few years ago, and he had all of his triples. He came to me and smiling ear to ear, saying, I get it now. I understand. He started to discover this connection with the audience and that joy that he was giving to other people through his gift. He said, please let me skate again with you next year.
That dream ended just before 9 p.m. Wednesday night in the freezing Potomac River. Lane was part of the Skating Club of Boston, which lost 2 skaters and their mothers, as well as 2 coaches in the crash. Several other skating clubs around the country also lost members. Olympic U.S. figure skater Nancy Kerrigan, who trained at the Skating Club of Boston, went there to mourn and honor those who were lost.
I think it's a shock. And when you find out, you know some of the people on the plane, is even a bigger blow.
13-year-old Jinna Han, another skater from Boston's Skating Club, was also on board the flight with her mother, Jin Han.
She was in it to win it, just a delight, but for a little 13-year-old, just full of grace.
2 of the club's coaches, world champion skaters Yevgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov, also died. The Russian-born skaters were married and competed twice in the Olympics. After they won the pairs title in the 1994 World Figure Skating Championships, they moved to the United States and built successful coaching careers.
Everything you've heard of them, like maybe being a little tough, but with a smile on their face. And anytime I walked in, oh, hi, it's so good to see you. It's always welcoming and happy to see one another. And so just to walk in here and not see that is, I think, would be very strange for everybody. It's going to be hard.
The low-altitude helicopter corridor near D.C.'s Reagan National Airport is closed indefinitely, says the FAA. The agency shut down what's known as Route 4 this morning as the investigation into Wednesday's deadly collision between an Army Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines jet continues.
We most likely had a multitude of different issues, whether it be from understanding where a plane is, what our altitude is, what the speed is.
Answers that could be in the jet's flight data and voice recorders, known as black boxes, recovered last night. Some aviation industry experts and former pilots are focusing on the Army Black Hawk, which mirrors a report in the New York Times that suggests the helicopter may have been flying higher than it should have been, and possibly outside of its approved path on the Route 4 corridor. That means at or below 200 feet above sea level.
I've flown this route too many times to count. You stair step down your altitude and you keep that 200 feet plus or minus, 10, 20 feet.
It's possible with all the reflections of the light being over the water that they crept up.
The change of runway for the American Airlines jet could also be a factor.
It could have drifted them a little bit further into the path of that Black Hawk if there was some altitude discrepancy that the Black Hawk wasn't holding.
The preliminary NTSB report could come in 30 days. Final findings may take a year.
We're not going to put something out quick just so we can end some speculation.
In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
Ian was just a ball of vibrant, colorful energy. Ian definitely was the greatest example, one of the greatest examples of appreciation of loving his job, loving people.
Friends and families are remembering those who tragically lost their lives in the mid-air collision over the Potomac River Wednesday night. From those who are insured with transporting others safely,
despite the tragedy, that he was doing something he was good at, that he loved, and that's what I'll remember him.
To legendary skaters who dedicated their lives to a sport they loved.
And one thing that I will always remember is they were both so kind.
In total, 67 people were killed when an American Airlines flight from Wichita, Kansas, and an Army helicopter on a training mission collided over Washington, D.C. before crashing into the river below. Officials say there are no survivors. Douglas Lane was watching his son and wife's flight back from a youth figure skating development camp when he saw the news.
It seemed like the flight had landed, but their phones weren't on and they weren't popping up anywhere.
The National Transportation and Safety Board, which is leading the investigation into the disaster, says both the plane's flight data and voice recorders, known as black boxes from the plane, have been found, hoping to get answers as to why this tragedy happened.
The most important thing out of all of this investigation is we learn what happened and then make recommendations so that it doesn't happen again.
In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Just 2 days ago on this ice, 160 elite skaters ages 10 through 17 attended a national development camp. Wednesday, at least 2 of these campers got on a plane that never made it. 16-year-old Spencer Lane was one of them.
Went from an extreme high to now this extreme low, hearing about this tragic news.
Wichita Skating Club president Jolene Taylor says she chaperoned Spencer's group of 23 young guys on Monday. The camp was 2 days, 12 hours a day.
We started at 6:15 in the morning. And the minute they showed up, they were fun. They were talking to each other. I could tell most of them knew each other. They were having fun with the camp. What a nice group of boys I have.
And here at the ice rink where the development camp took place, if you come to the center, you'll see a makeshift memorial with the number of the downed American airline flight.
Sadness. It's just a lot of good memories here, and to have it now associated with a tragedy is tough.
You don't think that tomorrow they might not be here. You don't think that.
At first I was like, no, that doesn't happen to us. Of course, they're too good of people.
Michael Simpson found out this morning that Bob and Lori Schrock were on board Flight 5342 and died after the plane collided with a military helicopter.
First thought was Wichita's way too close for this not to impact. So, we're going through the Rolodex in my head, okay, who do I know that might be flying out? And honestly, I never even considered Bob and Lori.
Michael says both Bob and Lori helped him in times of need at his boys' ranch.
Instead of taking their money and going and buying another car, doing which they had their full right to do, they said, we want to help kids that we don't even know. You just don't find people like that. And then don't want any recognition. Don't put my name on a plaque. That's who they were.
Now he's left with their memories and his last message to them.
I said, thank you doesn't seem to cover it, brother. I hope you and your wife know how much I appreciate you. Not simply because of your gifts, which are always appreciated, but for the many years of encouragement way before the Boys Ranch was even thought of. On top of that, the grass that grows in our pasture. Do you see your pasture for years? I don't have many friends like you. I love, respect, and appreciate both of you very much. God bless you.
There's a growing memorial full of flowers inside the Ashburn Ice House lobby. Like you mentioned, the ice skating community is very close. They compete against each other, but there's so much support for one another in this demanding sport. And we've learned children skating at a camp in Wichita, Kansas were on the plane. Earlier today, our crews were out here when one 10-year-old girl came here to pay her respects. She said she knew multiple people aboard the plane, including 12-year-old Brielle Byer and her mother, Justina.
My favorite memory with Brielle is playing games with her and talking, and I love all these people, and they really support me.
She's way off. You can talk about it, you can hear it. But one of the things that she just told me, she just remembered, last night she was sitting on the couch with her iPad, playing some video game live over the air with her friend on the plane just before the accident occurred.
They're friends on the ice when they're competing, they're friends on the ice when they're training, and together you support each other, and that's how we hope to get through it.
And just down the road at the Fairfax Ice Arena, again, more emotions for victims who practice their craft there. We found another memorial inside the ice rink there. And we've just learned from Fairfax County Public Schools, 3 students and 6 parents in the school district died in the crash. This has had a deep impact not only on these children skating alongside the victims, but also the coaches.
People are devastated. My daughter supposedly have a class today. The coach has canceled the class because she also knows so many kids. Especially you saw them from a lot of kids start training from 4 to 6 years old. So most coaches already know them more than 10 years.
It's difficult. It's hard and it's devastating. It's surreal, honestly.
Azra Hussein Raza was a beloved member of every community she was a part of: Indianapolis, Carmel, and Washington, D.C.
That spirit actually is in Asra as well. Because even when she moved to DC, in the short time she lived in DC, she built really a great relationship with a lot of people.
Ahmed Almin was her imam in Indianapolis. He says the family moved to Carmel from the city, but always came back to the Indianapolis Muslim Community Association.
When she decided to get married, she requested me to officiate her wedding specifically. And I had the honor to talk to her before the wedding, and her husband, very wise people.
Azra married her husband, Hamad Raza, in August of 2022.
One of the most successful premarital counseling that I've done in my years being an imam. They were very understanding, very cooperative, and they exactly knew what to do. And the marriage was amazing.
Almin spoke to News 8 via Zoom from Qatar on a layover. He will fly to Chicago and turn right back around to go to D.C.
Honestly, I still am in a state of shock. I couldn't believe it. They always reach out to me, and I would say it's an honor for me to be there for them during their difficult time and good times.
Almin wants to help Azra's memory live on.
We make the best out of this tragedy. I know it's difficult to say it, but like I said, we have to keep up the hope, and we have to keep her alive through her memory, through charitable work.